All right. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Slap in VR, so called because I am your host, Vincent Rodriguez, and here we talk all things sports, life, and people. Today, I am honored to have a guest you've probably seen if you've been paying attention because he's been helping me out with the college football wraparound previews. This guy is your go to for all things San Diego sports. I am pleased to welcome my good friend, Mr. Johnny Olivieri.
Yeah. What's up, guys? How you doing?
So, basically, Johnny here is all things San Diego sports, and we've talked. But full transparency, this is like our second attempt at doing this because the first time it was over mobile and there was some audio and video issues. But in some of the times we were talking about it, you've told me about all the different San Diego stuff you've been to. How many different sports do you think you've attended a game at?
Oh, man. Um, it's a good question. There's a lot. There's so many like random ones too that like popped up over the years and didn't last. Like we were talking about the San Diego Fleet. Um, Definitely over 20. Just different sport things if you count like college, pro, that. So yeah, quite a bit. A lot of
What would you say was your most unique viewing experience for a sport that you've attended?
so there's probably 2, and they're 2 different sports, so that kind of is cool. So the first one is we have an indoor football team, the San Diego Strike Force, and that was cool, and I got to sit, like, on the sideline in the very front row. So you're literally, like, sitting there, and you're, like you just have your hands like this, and you're on the edge, right? And these guys go into the stands, the footballs go into the stands, they get smashed into the walls, so that was really cool. If the football goes in the stands, you get to keep it too, so that was really neat. So as a football fan, that was like my favorite, like unique one. But I'm not too crazy into baseball, but definitely like any San Diego team. And I went to UCSD baseball game and sit front row right behind home plate. So that was like a really cool different view of the game. I've gone to a lot of Padre games and I see people down there, but I don't know how you can get a ticket for those games right behind home plate. But it was cool just being right there that close to the action, and that was like a really different perspective there. So those two are probably the most unique like viewpoints from games that I've been to.
And then, so outside of the major sports, stuff like football or baseball or basketball, what's been a sporting event you've attended that kind of grew on you after you started attending it?
Um Probably hockey. The goal is hockey, and I haven't gone in a while. And my girlfriend's been bugging me, and I keep telling her we'll go, and then I keep forgetting. But we went to some games, and they were really cool. It's cool because they let them fight and stuff too. So football can get a little boring for her when she's at the games because it's like unless you really know football, there's so much dead time. So hockey she really liked, and I liked that too. It was one that like grew on me more than I expected. So I definitely say hockey. And then there's a lacrosse team too, but I've only gone to like 2 games, so I can't really say it's grown on me because I haven't gone back in a while. But that was pretty interesting to watch too.
So you're a San Diego guy through and through, born and raised. What kind of started your fandom for sports in general, and then later on football?
Yeah. So for like my like getting into the fandom of sports, I have a older brother and we're only 22 months apart, so we're really close in age. So growing up, like we weren't really big into like video games a whole lot. So we'd always be outside like playing sports and then that just like playing with each other and then playing like in organized sports. And then, once you start actually watching football, and then we got into trading cards collecting your favorite player and favorite team and stuff. And then that just sort of, it's just kind of been a snowball effect from there. And then obviously once you get older and get a job and you have some money, and then you can start spending it on tickets and going to games and collecting different items there. It just kind of like explodes at that point.
So what was the first sporting event you ever went to?
That's a good question. It was probably a Padre game. I remember going to a lot of Padre games when I was younger, with my family. So yeah, it was probably a Padre game.
So as you can see from the banner behind you, you have your own website, and
Yep.
you basically dedicated a lot of your life, or starting to now, to all things San Diego sports history. I
Mhm.
guess, what is it about history in general that drew you? And then what specifically sports history?
Yeah, so, like, being a fan like when I was younger and watching like the players that were playing currently on TV and like collecting trading cards and they're always coming like every year obviously there's the new trading card sets that come out and they have those current players. But just being like a huge Charger fan and San Diego sports fan, I got into kind of the history of the team. So my dad grew up watching like Eric Oriel, so I would always hear his stories about that offense in those times and years and games. And that got me into like, oh, like you go on YouTube and like watch some highlights and like, man, this is cool. And then I just really got into like the history and like I want to learn about this team and like who was playing before, because there was a lot of great players and great teams that played before I was even born or even got to watch. So I just kind of got into the history of that, and it was just cool to like learn about the players that have kind of paved the way for the guys now. Um, but it's surprising, and I do a lot of card shows where I go and I'm always set up at them, and it's pretty amazing like how little people know about the history of the team. And I think it kind of like I mean, it sort of makes sense because everyone is like in the living in the now, right? Like they want they're watching the Chargers, they're playing every single week right now, so they're just so entrenched in that. But I mean, I'll even have little kids that'll come up to the table and be like, "Oh, like I'll have LT stuff. Who's LT?" And I'm like, "Man, like and that's pretty dang recent." So, I go back all the way to like I like stuff from the '60s, like the AFL era. The kind of the team's inception and just seeing that. I mean, they won the championship in '63. They played at Balboa Stadium, so just sort of that cool stuff. And then it just has been like just it's just sort of gotten like ingrained in me, and then I just enjoy teaching people the history of the team because I kind of saw like not really like a need for it because like you technically you don't like nobody really needs to, but I think it's cool if you know the history of your team and sort of like who was there before these guys, and it's then when they wear throwback jerseys, you kind of know something. So it's just cool. And being from like San Diego, like I have a lot of pride in the city. So I just enjoy like it's the history of the city as well.
So, so you're doing sports history, and then your older brother, he has a Instagram and TikTok dedicated to just history in general.
Yeah.
What is it, in your opinion, that you think draws people to wanting to, I guess, learn about history or study history, or what is it about history that just draws people in so much?
Yeah, I think my brother, yeah, he's sort of why I got into like the history of sports also because like at the same time we are like I said, we're really close in age. So growing up, we always had similar interests. But that's sort of he's still big into collecting sports stuff too. Um, but that's sort of like where we are a little bit different. So he has his Instagram and TikTok salvaging history. So and he does pretty much what I do for sports, but he does it for like US history, and world history too. But yeah, so what kind of gets people into history? I think it's just like the storytelling and it's like the just like it's really interesting to learn about different like people and what they did before you and just like kind of crazy events. So with like US history, you obviously have like all the way back to like the Civil War, Revolutionary War, World War One, World War Two, all that. So I think what interests people in history is just the stories and the incredible things that people did before them, and like as people and as humans we can kind of like take pride in that if it's like the good things, right? Like obviously there's history that you don't want to take pride in, but there's like things that like the moon landing or things like that like as humans it's like man, like that's somebody like the same like as us, like we're all people and they somebody like who has the same like makeup as us was able to go to the moon. So it's just cool, and the pride that you can kind of feel from that I think is what kind of captivates people.
I never thought about it that way. That is a kinda interesting way of looking at it because, when you look at the history of sports teams, a lot of it is based on pride for your team and pride for your city, and then looking at history, it's like, well, you know, in some contexts, you wanna look at history to learn from past mistakes, but then you also look at history to kinda see the great accomplishments we did as people. It's kind of
Mhm.
interesting how when you look at history, it's basically just the fandom of humanity and the study
Yeah.
of humanity at the same time. That's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it kinda gets lost in, when it comes to, like, because I mean, like, different countries doing things, so it's harder for, like, I don't know, like, if Europe does something really cool for, like, Americans or, like, Canadian, you know what I mean, or something to wanna
Yeah.
take pride in it because there's, like, this, like separation almost, you know what I mean? Like across nations, but like it's just cool, like as like you're saying, like as humanity that we were able to accomplish this or that's helps us move forward.
So you mentioned card shows earlier, and
Yep.
I'm sure you do a lot of wheeling and dealing trying to get your collection out there and also like grow it as well. What, in
Yeah.
your opinion, is harder, closing the deal on like a rare nostalgic item or closing escrow on a house? I did my homework.
Yeah. It's a good question. There's more moving parts to like escrow on a house and a lot more. It takes more time, obviously. But I'd probably say on a house. The sports stuff is easy. Once you kind of get somebody, I'm I'd like to think I'm pretty good at talking with people and like getting them into it. So I feel like once I kind of get especially in San Diego and some like San Diego stuff, I can kind of pull on those like heartstrings or like those like feelings of nostalgia for that. And it's quicker. It can only take a couple minutes. Escrow could take a long time.
How
Yeah.
long were you a realtor for?
Just a few years. Yeah, I did it for a few years. It was pretty it was interesting. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
What kind of got you into that?
Um so I my dad's friend who he played football at Fresno, actually, Fresno State. He was a wide receiver there. So he coached me up when I first started playing football, like some wide receiver tips. And he's a broker, so he had been doing real estate his whole life. So then once I got out of high school, I got my license, worked for him for a little bit. And yeah, that's kind of how I got into that.
So I guess what would you say are the more unique aspects of San Diego real estate as opposed to maybe other places in the country or even just like up the road in Los Angeles?
Yeah. Um, that's a good question. So obviously there's so many like San Diego's so like diverse, like when you go like closer to the coast or when you go inland. So and that's sort of similar. Well, I guess not. Like if you live like in freaking Nebraska, there's no like ocean and stuff. So that's kind of a cool thing. So you can kind of like market to so many different types of people. Um like you can have like your like hippies that want to live in PB and like surf and do that stuff, or you can market to like your high end clients who want like $1 million homes in La Jolla, or you can market to um like country people. Like I'm out here in Lakeside, so there's a lot of like desert people, people who like to camp, like that kind of stuff, horse people, animal people. So there's so many different types of properties and homes, and all different types of price ranges. It's pretty crazy. So I think that's like what the most unique thing is just like if you're moving to San Diego and you're like, hey, like I want to look at like homes in San Diego. There's such a like a spectrum of of stuff to look into. Like because when you go on like the MLS and you're like, all right, there's so many little boxes you can check. Like okay, like how many acres you want, how like square footage, like this, that, and it's just it's crazy. So I think it's really cool, like how unique it is. Where like I think anybody who lives anywhere in the country, whether it's like, um, if you're from New York City, or you're from Florida, or you're from Minnesota, besides the cold weather, uh, find a property out here that's similar to where you were living right now. And I don't think you can say the same for if you're moving from like New York City to, um, like Boise, like, there's just not that sort of, like similar properties. So I think that's the most unique thing about San Diego is just like the wide range of like price, which helps and hurts, and then just like different types of homes is a place for everybody here.
So drawing on that parallel, when you kind of look at the sports aspect, some
Yeah,
places kind of have their stereotypes or calling cards. You kind of look at Los Angeles and New York culture, it's kind of built on the celebrity aspect of it. You
yeah,
look at Los Angeles and you buy Hollywood, you look at New York and you're just in the media capital. But then you
yeah,
also kind of look under it and you have, New York is kind of more your burly wisecrackers from New Jersey and all that type of stuff. You have your Midwest sports, which is all the farm boy strength. Texas
mm.
with super athletes, Florida's with your fast athletic guys who will burn you off the line. What would you say is San Diego's unique calling card in the sports world?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think Like, the unique thing is, like, in a lot of cities don't have this, but the major cities do, like LA, New York, San Diego, probably like Miami, Florida, um, is, like, the variety of sports, like, and we touched on that earlier, but, like, I mean, there you have San Diego State, you have USD, those they both have football, you have UCSD, um, baseball, there's good basketball. UCSD is doing really good this year in basketball. Um, so you have like elite college basketball. I'm hoping it becomes more elite. The Aztec football. You have professional baseball. You have MLB. Now we have MLS, and they made like a deep playoff run. You have hockey. You have, I mean, indoor soccer. You have the San Diego Sockers. You have indoor football. You have I think there's even like a professional volleyball team and like Jordan Love's girlfriend or wife plays on it. So there's just so much. I think that's the cool thing is and it works for the city because like major cities draw people from all over the country, right? So there's like if you're from somewhere in the country where like this one sport kind of prevails more than the other and you're moving to San Diego, like there's a good chance unless it's the NFL that that sport is here and you have a team to watch and root for. And if not, when like for NFL, then you know there's a lot of transplants and people who have had favorite teams already if they're from cities that have NFL teams. So I think like the diversity of sports kind of helps, and I think that's the most unique thing.
That is actually an interesting way of looking at it because you do raise a fair point. Like that's common amongst major cities. But I think to your point, what makes San Diego different than other major cities is the fact that there's not one domineering team. Because you go to Los Angeles, the domineering team is going to be the Lakers or
Yeah.
the Dodgers. You go to New York, it's going to be the Giants or the Mets or whoever else. But if you go to San Diego, there's not really one team that just fully encompasses the city. So you're
Mhm.
able to have that widespread variety of whatever sport you could possibly think of, more than likely you're going to have it in San Diego. It's going to have a nice fan base, and you're able to kind of enjoy it and see the variety going on. So I think
Yeah.
that is actually a fair thing that makes San Diego unique is just
Mhm.
the wide encompassingness of it. Because it doesn't matter whether you're a fan of minor leagues or amateur leagues or professional leagues, there's going to be something in some sport there for you.
Yeah, or at least close. You know, I mean, if some people want to drive up and watch the Chargers, they're able to do that. Or if you want to go watch like, trying to think of what the Padres affiliate team is, like Elsinore Storm. Like they're not too far either. So, yeah. Besides like all the cool stuff in San Diego, then you had sports in there, and I'm a little biased because I'm from here, but I would never want to leave San Diego.
But with all that being said, so there is kind of the scene, like, when amongst the major cities that San Diego isn't really considered in that kind of upper tier of major cities. So what is
Yeah,
it, in your opinion, that you think keeps San Diego sports as kind of like the underdog, or what keeps San Diego in kind of the lower levels of major cities?
yeah. Um, I like it to kinda keep flying under the radar, so a lot of people don't move here, and it gets crazy, but, yeah, when it comes to sports stuff, I think, like, proximity to, like, Los Angeles, you know, and, like, championship teams there that have won it, um, so, like, if there's people here like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who have moved from LA to San Diego too, but, there's bandwagons everywhere, so, like, if you're in San Diego and you're like, "Oh, shoot, like, I could drive," like, you know, like, if they have we have the Padres here, and they haven't been doing too good, depending on how you look at it. It's probably easier for people to be like, maybe I'll be a Dodger fan. I can drive up 2 hours and watch the games there, and like I'm close enough to do that. So I think that kind of, and not to make excuses, but that could kind of draw people to there, like how close you are to like championship winning teams. Like, you know, there's no more NFL here, but the Rams are winning Super Bowls. So like, oh, jump on that bandwagon, or the Dodgers are doing good. Um, so I think like to answer your question, that's kind of how I feel about that and where that is with those teams in the proximity.
And then do you think that San Diego is kind of really low rated as far as, like, its impact on at least, we'll go with football because that's the easier analogy. Do you think it's kind of underrated or not really respected as far as its impact on football culture? Because when you look at San Diego football culture, you have some of the greatest head coaches in the game to come out of San Diego. John Madden went to SDSU. You had Eric Coryell coming up with the San Diego Chargers. Those are two guys who have innovated the sport and broadcasting and media.
Yeah.
but you don't really hear about their connections to San Diego. So,
Mhm.
what is it that you think keeps San Diego kind of low as far as its impact on football culture?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, another 2 are, like, Joe Gibbs, and then, one that, his team is the number 1 seed, in the AFC, Sean Payton. He was at SDSU too. Um, and, like, being a fan of, like, the history of San Diego, like, there's so much, like, San Diego's played such a big role, in NFL. I mean, you look at the AFL when that came into fruition and these, like, the Chargers were here, and they had, like, some exciting teams. Like, it's hard to say, for sure, but, like, you don't know how the success of the AFL would have been, and it was, like, a group effort by, well, many teams that were good, but the Chargers were one of those teams that were really instrumental in, like, keeping that league going and, like, keeping the excitement of that league going. Um, head coach Sid Gilman was, like, super innovative and, reading into the history of that too, like, Coryell would, like, attend Charger practices and kind of pick, like, Sid Gilman's brain. So, like, a little bit of, like, Coryell's success is owed to him as well. So, yeah, I don't like it does seem to fly under the radar, like, how important San Diego football has been to, like, the wider success of, like, the NFL, and then the AFL in those early years. And then you have coaches, like you're saying, that came out of, SDSU, even Harbaugh started at USD. So, yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm not sure that I have, like, an exact answer to why it sort of flies under the radar. I mean, I guess what you could think is, like, it's more of, like, when it comes to college, it's more of, like, a stepping stone because it's not they don't get as much, like, coverage and, like, national recognition. The Aztecs did, obviously, but it takes a lot of winning to do that. Like, when Coryell was here, they were doing things that were, like, crazy that, like, people, college teams, like, even now, like, they just run so much, but, like, how they were passing back then, so it just takes something so drastic to do it. But I think that, like, for college-wise, it's become, like, more of a stepping stone. Like, we just had Rob Arch, like, leave for Nebraska, so it's like, and he was here just for a few years, and who knows how much longer Sean Lewis will be here. So, yeah, I wish I knew the answer because I would it would be cool for San Diego to get more recognition for that. But at least, like, for those of us who do know, it's cool to kinda take some pride in that, and you have people to root for that, started here in San Diego.
So you mentioned SDSU. You're actually a writer for the East Village Times, and you cover San Diego State sports. Was kind of your passion for history and cataloging the history of San Diego sports what kind of connected you or drew you to that position, and how did that all start?
Yeah, so that started it's kind of a funny story that happened. So on Twitter, I was following Andre, who writes with me at East Village Times, and this was before I had even met him, but I followed him because he posts a lot of stuff like that. He covers the team, and one time when he just like tweeted like, "Hey, I have an extra ticket. Whoever wants to go to the Aztec basketball game." So I was like, "Cool, like I'll go," and had never met him before. Went to the game. Obviously, like the seats with him, so we are hanging out, watching the game, and just chatting it up. And he was talking about how he writes for East Village Times, and like he was like, "Yeah, if you ever want to, if you're ever interested, let me know." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then didn't think of it because at the time I was just starting like the SD.SportsMem website, so I was kind of just like really focused on the history more than the current times. Like I definitely liked following the team, but didn't I'm not a big fan of writing. Like I'm more like this kind of stuff. Like being on camera is cool, and talking, but like writing, like I can't sit down and focus. So like for me to write something that would probably take somebody like just an hour or two, takes me like a few days of like sitting down for an hour or two. So writing's a little bit out of my forte, but I've kind of gotten a little bit better at it. So then like fast forward like maybe 6 months or so, they needed somebody to write football stuff, and I saw like the East Village Times Twitter post out like, "Hey, we're looking for football writers." So DM'd Andre, and I was like, "Hey, like I'd be interested." And then he got me in touch with Paul Garrison, who writes for or who did write. He retired after last year, if that's what like technically. I mean, none of us get paid; it's all just for fun. But but yeah, so then I got in touch with them and just started writing, and it was really cool to kind of see the behind the scenes stuff, like go to practices, different events, and then obviously like on game day being in the press box is really cool. So like combining that with the history like allowed me to connect with more people because um, not many people appreciate the history. Like when I post on Instagram and it's funny, and I'll be like, man, like I post something really cool, well that I think is really cool, and then it'll get like not a whole lot of likes, and I'm like, dang, like I thought people would have liked that because I'm always trying to figure out like how to, and my girlfriend helps me with this too because she's a couple years younger than me, so she likes to joke and be like, "Oh yeah, like you too like you don't like I'm better at this than you," but she is. So I'm always asking, and then I started posting. It was actually when we started talking with Brennan and Conrad and me and you were all at the and you
Shout out
guys
to shout out to
Diaz
our buddy Brendan at
your district.
Chargers District
Yep.
IG.
Yeah. So I kind of like owe you guys some credit too because that's when we all started talking, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start posting some more like non like history, like more stuff. So I post like some edits and stuff, gets like a ton of people love it. And I'm like, okay, but it's all about like finding that balance kind of before I get too off topic and down that road. But like you had asked about like like where I was going with this was the connection between like doing the history stuff and being able to connect with more people. Covering the current sports allows me to reach more people and then get them to the website or to my page, and then hopefully as they're scrolling through looking at if I have a good mix of current stuff and the older stuff, something older might catch their eye and they like that. But yeah, that's what East Village Time allows me to do. Um, and then it's just cool. I enjoy like bringing content about the team to the people of San Diego.
So that's interesting. So you had mentioned your kind of difficulty in writing things out versus being on camera. And so I guess what do you, because, I kind of have that same issue. And for me, it's kind of like I always feel like I can't get the proper words when I'm writing things out, or I feel like I'm writing too much detail. So
Mhm.
what is the unique challenges you see in typing out history and play by play your games as opposed to just like sitting down and filming it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. I don't know, like everyone's so different and so unique. Like my mind works like it's hard to put into words. I can't think of it, but like when I sit down, it's probably because I like my energy level, like ADD and stuff. Like I sit down, I can't focus. Like I'll be doing something, and I'll have my phone there, and then I'll like light up, and I'll be like, oh, shit. And then next thing you know, I'll catch myself just like on Instagram. I'm like, what am I doing? Like I gotta get back to writing. So I like focusing and like maybe train like the translation from like my mind to the keyboard and then like typing it out is like a little bit more challenging. I also hated school, so I didn't pay attention much. So like when I'm like typing things out, like I have Grammarly that saves me. Like I know how to spell and stuff, but like typing out things and I'm like it's probably like how my mind works a little bit too quick and I'll be like typing stuff out and then I gotta go back and edit it and reread it like a million times versus like just when we, start this show and then you just talk and then it just kind of like flows out. Like talking and is like a lot easier than like typing it out. So that's kind
So,
of like
uh,
that.
yeah. So when you're I guess the other question I have is that what are the particular beats you wanna hit? So if you're typing something for SDSportsMem and you're
Yeah.
typing out, like, the history thing, what are the particular beats you wanna hit in your writing as opposed to when you're writing for East Village and you're trying to do, like, a preview or an after analysis? What are those beats like?
Yeah, that's interesting. So when I do my history, like for when I'm writing for SD Sportsman, it's more about detail because say like let me so like I have a helmet here for instance that I'm looking at and it's like a Kenny Graham game worn helmet from 1965. So like when I write the article, like I'll break down like okay, like who is Kenny Graham, like what where to go to college, this and that, and I put a lot of detail in there because that's like what's going to interest people besides like the picture because everyone likes like everyone's visual now and everyone's attention spans are short. At least mine is for sure. So from like TikTok and all that. But so it's all about like that. Like so like for instance, when I'm writing about that helmet, you have the image obviously because that's what's gonna captivate them, bring them in because it looks cool. It's like a battle worn helmet. It's like beat up because it's really old. So and then like detail and I can go into more detail on the SDSportsMem website articles because I figure once they click onto that, they're like they're interested. If you get to my website and you go onto my website, then you click onto, the collection tab and then you click onto the article, I'm assuming at that point you're intrigued. So I can put more details there, right? And then people will like, oh, like that's the goal at least, and that's my mindset. But then when I'm writing for East Village Times, especially during the season, like because I write the previews, so stuff is always changing. Like the record wise. So like when I start my preview, it's sort of a background of how the season's going so far, and then more specifically like that the last game. So the details aren't as like in depth, because it's just about like, hey, like people know what's going on. So like what can like give them a quick rundown. They know what if they won or lost last week. They know who did good, who didn't, and vice versa. So, kind of give them a quick rundown of that, and then get into the details, but not too detailed because it's all about like just people nowadays. Like a lot of it's read on their phone because it's on uh, the website, but we post it on Twitter a lot. So it's just about getting them the right amount of information without it being too much. Because like these people are reading this during the week. Like it usually comes out on Thursday. So you have 2 days till game day. So you don't want it to be too in depth where they're like, okay, like I know all this stuff. And then you want to find little like tidbits that they don't know yet. And that comes from going to the press conference and asking questions. So that's kind of the difference. Because you're more writing when I'm writing for the SD Sportsman, something that's already happened. And then when I'm writing for East Village Times, it's like a little bit of what's happened based on the last week, and then it's like a preview of what's coming up. So those are kind of, and both of them are cool because they're both like challenging in themselves.
When writing your history articles, what would you say is kind of more the biggest difficulty? Is it more the research and finding the information, or is it more finding a way to present that information in a informative but entertaining manner?
Yeah, so it kind of depends if it's an item that or like something that I've had or that I really know about. Um, the research is easy because I'm just like double checking stuff pretty much to make sure that I'm, telling people the right information. But sometimes there's things that I find that, and this happens a lot, that I didn't like don't know of. So it's like, oh man, like I found this player's jersey or helmet or this or that or this card or this ticket. Um, and then that's when the research can become not difficult, but just like take more time. Because especially when like you're like translating like history, like you want to make sure you put the right thing down. Like you don't want to have, and it also can ruin your credibility. Like if I go on there and say this and it's wrong, then people could go like, man, like is any of his stuff right? You know what I mean? Or like, does this guy know what he's talking about? Um, but then like what was part two of your question? Sorry, because jumped into that so quick.
Oh, no, you're good. It was either whether the research is more of the difficulty, or is it more like writing
Oh
it out and keeping the informative information there, but also keeping it in a written and writing it in a way that seems engaging.
yeah, yeah. Probably so. Yeah, saying like based on the research, if it's something I know about and it's something I know, or if it's something I do need to research. Either way, the research isn't that bad. But yeah, putting it out in a way that like keeps people reading, and get while giving them the information, that can be the most challenging. And the difference like between the SD Sportsmem website articles and the East Village Times articles are long. Like they're like their previews are always like probably around like 1,700 to 2,000 words. But my SD Sportsman, and this is probably because I don't like writing, is shorter. Like they're like a few paragraphs because you're like, okay, here's the item. Like here's the item and here's like a quick bit of information. And also like the difference between that is because on the SD Sportsman website, there's a lot of different like if you go on my website, there's a ton of different things in the like the collection tab. Um, so like I don't want to bore people with like too much information. Like I want to get to the point, give them the information, and then hope that they continue reading on and look at other pieces of memorabilia or items that are on there. So if I had like a 2,000 word thing for every item, people would probably not read as many of them. So yeah, so those are the differences between those two there.
What would you say is the most unique item in your sports collection?
Um, football wise, my favorite unique item is probably I have the jersey that Antonio Gates wore when he caught his 112th touchdown to pass Gonzalez for most by tight end all time. And it was also their first game in LA. So that's like my coolest and favorite unique item. But like my overall, like, and this isn't even football, but like overall, like if I had all my stuff laid out and I was like, what's the like weirdest, like most unique thing? And it's kind of like a cool story. I'm big into like um horror movies and stuff like that. So like scary stuff. And so I was at I would go to the swap meets. That's how I find a lot of stuff. And like swap meets, garage sales, eBay, all that. Like it's a culmination of stuff. But I was at the swap meet and there's a guy there who's always selling jerseys. So I was like just checking it out. And then like being just like a big San Diego fan, there's a USD basketball jersey. And I was like, that's cool. And it was like cheap. Nice stitched one. So I was like, I'll get that like to wear. So I bought it, get it home, and I look on the back, and there's like over the nameplate, there's like another, and it was really hard to tell because it was the exact same material, but they had stitched over like some more of like the jersey mesh material over the nameplate. So like when I bought it, I couldn't see um that there was a nameplate on the back. So, and I'll make the story quick. So I get off,
No,
I
you're good.
take off this, I pop out all the threads, take that off, and I see the last name says Jones. I'm like, okay. And on the NBA or NBA on the college jerseys, there's the year tag on it. So I'm like, let me look up the roster because this is kind of cool. Like it's a game worn one because I could tell that it was like at least team issued. So I look up and drawing a blank on his first name, but I look up the roster and pull up the kid, and it's like, oh, like USD basketball, or you like USD athlete uses basketball to escape family's murderous past. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, click on this article. This kid, the jersey belonged and it was worn. I like photo matched it to games by Jim Jones, the guy from the like, drink the Kool-Aid stuff down in South America, the Jonestown massacre.
Yeah?
So this is his grandson. This is so his grandson. Yeah. So I was like, what the heck? This is why it's the weirdest, wildest thing I've ever found. And I will never get rid of this jersey because it's just such an interesting story. So that year that the jersey's from, they ended up making like an appearance in the tournament, which was like for USD basketball at the time was pretty crazy. So yeah, that was just like the weirdest thing. And I ended up finding out that like when the whole Jonestown massacre went down. So this kid's the grandson, right? So it's like Jim Jones and then his son and then the grandson. Well, his Jim Jones' son was somewhere else in South America playing basketball at the time of the Jonestown murder. So like basketball kind of saved his life because he wasn't there when all this, you know, this stuff went down. So it was just pretty crazy. So that's like the most unique. The Gates one is obviously what I would pick, but the Jones jersey is probably the like wildest thing that like you would have never thought of.
Oh, yeah, right there, Rob Jones.
Rob, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he ended up coaching at a few colleges like in California. But like being like a sport, it kind of combines like my like sports fandom with like my like scary movies or like you know what I mean, like horror type. So it's like a interesting crossover that I
Uh,
don't know. Anything
okay,
else that
I'm not gonna tell you how to do your job, but you need to do something on that. I don't care if it's a full article, you need to sit down just with your camera and tell, like, that is something so interesting.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy. And it's just like, and I always think like, man, what if I didn't like, because that's so random. Like I enjoy basketball like a little bit, like because like the Aztecs are a good basketball team, but like of like all the sports, like it's like more towards the lower end, just because it doesn't like interest me as much as football and stuff. So I always think like, man, like what are the odds like this? Like if you saw this guy's booth, and maybe when you come to San Diego, we'll go check out Kobe's swap meet or something. But this guy had this booth that's like so many like canopy things, like pop up tents, and literally probably thousands of jerseys hanging there. So like, what are the odds that like I walk by and I just see like, oh, that's a USD basketball jersey and like want to get it? So it's pretty crazy. But a cool piece. I feel like it could be haunted or something, man. Like I don't know. So
I mean, you've had pretty good luck so far, so I don't know about that, but I mean,
yeah, I've had it for a
hey,
few
I
years
mean
here, so we're good so far. Watch, I always say something and then something happens to me. You know, we have video evidence of what it might have been.
well, at least one of us will go viral from that.
Yeah, yeah. The podcast will blow up quick.
Okay, well, aside from all that very interesting
Mhm.
fuckery, I guess is a way to put it. Um, so obviously you've been a San Diego sports fan for a long time. You've been a Chargers fan for a long time.
Yep.
And now you've had the privilege of being, you know, tangentially an Aztec fan.
Mhm.
What are some of the more differences or unique differences or even significant that you've seen in how like a professional sports team kind of operates their practices or press conferences as opposed to college?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, so I haven't really, or haven't not really. I haven't been to any professional sports. I got like, well, not college, but you know what I mean, like NFL or MLB press conferences. So
Well, I mean, like you've
really,
seen them, you've observed them like
yeah,
on
yeah,
video and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like
So I'm
that.
trying to in my head think. I think like the number of people who attend would be surprising. Like obviously NFL ones, there's a ton of people. Sometimes I go to these Aztecs ones, and there's like 4 or 5 of us there. Um, I think that's kind of the interesting. Then you feel like I always have questions, right? Like to ask, but then like sometimes other guys will have the same questions because we're kind of covering. We're all covering the team. So like if your questions get asked by someone else, then you're like shit, and then the pressure's kind of on. You're like, I got to think of something. I can't just sit here and not say anything. Um, but yeah, I think like the difference that I notice is like the amount of people, and then I think the um the NFL coaches seem to be a little bit more like, and this might be because there's a lot more on the line, like more irritable. The college coaches can be pretty like chill. Um, when they lose though, that's like I hate going to press conferences after they lose because it's so awkward and like because you obviously they're pissed and they don't want to talk to you because they just lost like freaking 10 minutes ago. Um, but I think eh, like the short answers that the NFL coaches give you in versus at college, they'll give you more like in-depth answers from what I've seen, like watching NFL press conferences. Like I'll ask Sean Lewis a question, like a pretty like simple one, and he's good because he gives you good quotes. He'll ask him a question, and talk for like 2 3 minutes. That's like cool. But these NFL coaches, it's funny you watch, and they don't want to give too much away. Not that Lewis gives up anything, but like they're like quicker answers. I'd say that's the main difference that I noticed between them.
And then, so besides SDSU football and college football and the former Chargers, there was a brief time where there was, and besides the indoor football league, there was a brief time where there was semi-professional football in San Diego, and that was with the um, San Diego Fleet of the at the time the XFL. Did you ever
Mhm.
get to experience that brief window in 2019, 2020?
Yeah, so I had season tickets to the San Diego Fleet, which was really cool. The games are freaking awesome. We had like end zone seats at Qualcomm. Um, the like the games are super exciting. The like since it was a new league, they were like doing things around the community to kind of like drum up excitement for it. So there was like cool things like where we got to go like on the field one time and you can meet the whole team. So like you go all the way down the line, you could get autographs. Kind of similar to like how like a spring like a college spring game is, how after you can go through and meet everyone. But at the time it was cool because the coaching staff was like ex NFL players. So there was like Eric Allen who played with the Eagles. He just got into the Hall of Fame not too long ago. I think the same year Gates did last year. Um, he was a coach. Like John Kitna was a coach. You want to blink on the head. Mike Martz, he was the head coach, and he, coached the Rams to a Super Bowl. So it was cool. It was exciting play, and then like the teams had like when they did the draft, they had the rights to sign players who played like college football in the area first. So it was kind of cool because like Gavin Escobar, the tight end, rest in peace, who played for SDSU, he played for them. Like there was a kicker, Hagman, I believe was his last name. He was for SDSU and he played for them. So it was just fun to watch that and it was exciting. And then they pulled the plug on it like halfway no, I don't even know if it got halfway through, but, it was cool, it was exciting stuff.
One of the many things that COVID ended up ruining.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Uh,
that was actually so AAF ended because some freaking so the guy
Oh, that's
who's
right, it was the AAF, not the
yeah,
XFL,
yeah,
that's right.
yeah, we didn't have an XFL team, I hope we get one, but that was AAF, so it was, like, right before COVID is when that ended, but the what shut it down was the guy who started it, and I forget his name, but it obviously is expensive to rent out these stadiums and do, like, all the like, I couldn't even imagine, like, all the operational costs and stuff, so he needed well, they had a tracking system in the footballs for AAF, right? And some hockey owner, freaking hockey people, man, he wanted the technology for the pucks. Like he wanted to track the pucks during hockey. So the AAF needed money, so they sold like a portion of the league or something to him, and he got the technology and helped fund the league. So he gave them a little bit of money to keep them going, and then he pulled the plug, got the technology, and didn't care. So then the league just shut down. And it was weird because like I was like I don't know what I was doing that week, but like I started seeing reports like, and we had season tickets, so like we are gonna go to a game in a couple weeks, and I was like, are we gonna go to this game? Is this league gonna fold? And like out of nowhere, just boom, ended, and it was done. There were players like my brother started doing like a little like mini documentary, and he interviewed a lot of the Fleet players. Um, and they said that they just got locked out of the facility, like they couldn't get in to get any of their stuff. It was the middle of the season, so there were players who were like at like away games, like at the hotels, and they said that all of a sudden the hotels are billing them, and they got screwed, and they didn't have flights back, and all this stuff. Yeah, it was a pretty messy end. And it was disappointing because for like fans who, were Charger fans and didn't follow the team, they were excited for like professional football, if that's what you want to call it, like to be back. So it was just like another like freaking heartache for San Diegans.
Well, that's yeah, it's just that's a great segue because that's part of the reason why I asked the question is because recently some of the reports have been coming out about SDSU athletics and
Right.
how the athletic director is trying to find ways to raise fees and all this type of stuff because they want to make a push for better athletes in this age of NIL.
Yeah.
So, and then, you and I, we've been to an SDSU game and you've told me before that how some of the attendance isn't where it's, needed to be even at a smaller stadium.
Yeah.
So I guess like, between the Aztecs and XFL or AAF, do you think there is still a professional appetite for football in San Diego, or has that just passed now?
I think there is. I don't know, and I've lived in San Diego my whole life, so I can't speak for other cities, but it's like it's weird, and you hear so many reasons of this, but like and it's hard for, like, us, like, me and you, like, and other like, in Conrad, like, people who I know, are, like, diehard fans of the teams. Like, I know if Boise State didn't win a game for 3 years, like, you wouldn't go root for, like, another team, right? So, like, it's weird, like, um, and I hear that excuse, like, "Oh, they just need to win and people will show up," and that's kinda like like, I don't like that I don't like that, excuse because it's like, man, like, you should like your team through, like, thick or thin or whatever, like, it doesn't matter. Um, but, um but yeah, there's just like this like lack of fandom, and I don't know if there's still an appetite here because people have been pretty pissed. Like there's still a lot of people who still like the Chargers, but then there's a lot of people who like hate them. Like there's like two people, and it's like you're either here or here. There's no like in between really, right? There's people who like still watch the Chargers and still root for them, and then like and then if you don't, then they like absolutely hate them and they like want them to fail. So there's no like in between. So I don't know if there's like an appetite, and this probably won't happen for the Chargers to come back. But I think of another like if the NFL did an expansion team, I think that there is enough people here who like football. Um, and then there's people that would, like I don't I like soccer to me is very boring. Like but there's people in San Diego who, when the MLS came, they sell out Snapdragon. And even I didn't get to go to a game, but I was like wanting to go to a game, and like I don't even like soccer. So like I think that there's like enough of an appetite already, and then if you bring some sort of football, if it's the freaking XFL, like even that, like just like something new, I think that the people will that there's enough appetite for it. I wish that they would do it for SDSU, um, for these college athletes that work so hard during the off season, and like they deserve like a sellout stadium. And there's so many other factors that have gone into why that hasn't happened, and it 100% it isn't, like, just a product on the field, like, there's other factors, like money and, like, where people are financially, like, I don't blame people for not wanting to spend what it costs to go to an Aztec game, but there's definitely appetite here for football, whether it's professional, semi-pro, or whatever.
So there actually is a picture of you from the San Diego Times, I believe it is, with you wearing a Hunter Henry jersey, kind of walking through that time when the Chargers left. So kind of walk me through that and what the whole
You did?
vibe of the city and everything was like.
You do your homework. Where'd you find that? Did I post that or something?
I just literally looked up your name.
Oh, okay, okay.
You're in the byline under the photo.
Yeah, yeah, yep. Um, I have, like, a copy of that newspaper from that. Uh, yeah, they left. I had some shit I needed to get signed. What's surprising though is we talk about, like, the appetite for football in San Diego, right? And, like, how people were, like, I'm sure you saw, like, when they moved, like, the people burning stuff at the facility.
Yeah.
That was so I don't know how soon, like, that picture and that, like, event was after the burning stuff, but it had to have been within a few months, right? Um, there was only me and 2 other people down there that day, which was surprising. Like, that was it. And it was, like, 2 people that were always at, like, every single day of training camp too, because I used to go to the training camps a lot, and that was it. So which was a little bit surprising. Or I mean, I guess it depends, like, people were pissed, and it was, like, still, like, a fresh wound, so I'm sure even the ones who, are now still fans, like, maybe at that time they were still kinda bitter. But that was cool. I went down there. Um, I have that sign somewhere. I don't know if in the picture you can see, but the sign says, like, "Charger fan for life."
I think in
And
the photo, they only caught the back, and it looks like there's a picture of Mike Williams or something right
yeah,
there.
yeah, there's, like, a picture of Michael Williams catching the touchdown for Clemson. He signed that for me that day, but I have that I don't know where that is, but it's somewhere here. I have that poster, and I got a bunch of people to sign it. What was funny was, Gus Bradley, had just signed on with the Chargers, and he was pulling out because, like, as they would come out with their cars, we would get autographs, and he was like, "I'm just a coach. You still want me?" And I was like, "Yeah, like, you're like, I know who yeah, I know who you are, man. You're good. Yeah, you're Gus Bradley." So, yeah, but that was a fun and sad day, but it was cool, like, to be, like, on the, front page of the newspaper, and then if, like, there's another picture that was, like, in the sports page, so, like, Gates stopped, and, I, like, took a picture with him, and then he signed a football for me, and there was, like, a picture, in the sports page too of, like, me and Gates, which was pretty cool. So, I'm like, my little claim to fame. I have that, and then I was on that show Pawn Stars. Those are, like, my 2, yeah, short things.
Ooh, okay. Now I have to do more research and find that episode.
That one's hard to find. I found it on YouTube one time, and then, like, it was, like, with, like, a it was, like, a few videos of, like, different sports things, and it was on there. But yeah, that being down there that day was cool. I miss going down to that Chargers Park. I just drove by it last night. I was going and I was stuck in traffic on the 15 there, and I, like, looked over and get depressed. Man, I'm raised to go there with my brother and cousin all the time and get autographs, and stuff like that. Just like we did when we first met up but in LA.
Oh, yeah, at the Bolt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, the training camps are fun, but that's funny that you saw that, yeah. I was thinking, "Man, did I don't know if I posted that on my Instagram or something," but yeah.
I'll send you
That
the link later on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I like to end all of my interviews with a series of questions here and an extra question that is from the previous guest. So the questions that I ask are usually based on the questions made famous by, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Inside the Actor Studio, the host of that show was very fantastic. He had a set of questions that he borrowed from a philosopher or somebody, I believe, later on. Um, but we'll start with the guest question. So my previous guest was 5 Points Vids, great YouTuber. If you haven't seen him, go watch him. There's a lot of content on just like interesting sports niches. Whenever I do get my next guest, is there just a question that you think I should ask them?
Ooh, ask them, uh, what their favorite Twitter account is to follow. Or who do they watch on YouTube too? Like who do they, like not related to their industry or anything, who do they sit down and watch that, you know, people would be surprised?
Oh, okay. And this is our second time doing
Yeah,
this one. So
yeah.
you know this. I kinda answered this last time. There's a cool yeah, I don't know, it's been a while and I forget stuff. I don't know if this is what I said last time, but, I like reptiles and stuff, so I have, like, snakes and all that. So there's this YouTube account called, New England Reptile Distributors, Nerd, and they post some crazy videos. They have some, like, insane stuff, because 'cause they're over there in, like, Boston or New Hampshire or something, where the laws allow you to have more stuff. California sucks for that stuff. Like you can't have anything really that's that dangerous. But I have like king cobras, just wild stuff like that. Um, and that's kind of like what I really like. Kind of like I don't know if it's like an adrenaline thing, like why I like the more like crazy snakes and stuff like that. But yeah, that's one that I watch. New England Reptile Distributors.
So that is technically your second time answering that question, but the
Did I
odd
get this time?
it was the audio after you were talking about the fleet, I believe, was what cut out in our initial interview. So this set
Oh,
of so that question has never seen the light of day.
okay. Well, I almost got away. People didn't know how crazy and weird I really am. But no, yeah, that's one that I like. Yep.
Okay, so now we move earnestly to the set of questions that I have here, and most of them are some are related to the original questions from inside the actor studio, but other of these are some of the own ones that I've kind of added on there.
Mhm.
So, what is your favorite word?
Um, my favorite word probably Mariah. That's my girlfriend's name, and we're just like we're always like hanging out with her, love being around her. So, yeah, probably Mariah.
What is your least favorite word?
um, lose. I don't like to lose. I'm
What
very
turns you
competitive.
on? Oh, you good? What turns you on?
Uh, just being happy and just enjoying life.
What turns you off?
Um, Nighttime. I like daytime, and I don't like when it's dark.
What is your favorite curse word?
Probably fuck.
What brings you peace?
Um, just hanging out with family and friends and just, relaxing. I don't have to be doing a whole lot, just hanging out and having fun.
What riles you up?
Sports.
What job or career other than your own would you like to attempt?
Uh, Man, that's a good one. Probably like a sports broadcaster would be kind of cool. Like play by play live action, yeah.
What job or career would you not like to attempt?
Oh, astronaut. I wouldn't want to get stuck up there. Too much out of my control.
Well, I mean, what a follow to this question. If there is an afterlife, what would you like to experience when you first arrive?
uh, just seeing all the loved ones like before that I've lost. Yeah.
What do you believe is the legacy you will leave behind?
Um, Hopefully, just being a good you know, brother, son, husband, dad, just for being a good person for the people like around me.
And if you could share one piece of advice with the world, what would it be?
Um, don't take stuff too seriously. Like nothing's really like as bad as it is. So just go out and have fun and don't care what people think.
Ladies and gentlemen, that has been my guest, Johnny, all things San Diego sports with SDSportsMem. So I'm not entirely sure who I'm going to have for my next guest. We kind of talked about this off camera a few times. I did
Yeah.
do an interview with Justin Blaylock, the former Falcons guard. Had good amount of technical issues and everything on there. So I'm hoping to get him again. So he's a
Oh,
former NFL player. What would be a question I should ask him if I do get him
okay.
next?
Um. Oh, I like these ones. Like, what was his welcome to the NFL moment?
Hey, sounds like a good one. And then the only other person I would have on the docket would be I might be doing an interview with Brennan and
Oh,
or he might be interviewing me to talk about all things Boise sports
yeah,
because I want to get my story out there as a Boise fan.
yeah,
So I
definitely.
guess what would be a question I should ask Brendan or a question he should ask me?
Hmm. I'll do both. So when you should ask him. Here's one, and I'm surprised I hadn't asked him yet because I always wonder this because he's like in San Diego and stuff. Does he ever get like trolls like who aren't San Diego or who aren't LA fans? Like San Diego ones bugging him when he posts stuff. That's one that's interesting. And then him for you. This is a good one. Oh, so what's the like most obscure Boise State Bronco that you're a big fan of in the NFL? So one that not many people would know. Not like a Kellen Moore or a Matlock or like a Legadoon Nane, but like what's the most like weird one? Maybe one like a guy who like only played 1 year or something. Something like that. Because I know there's probably I can see you thinking, and I'm sure you've already thought of like 10 already, but yeah, like if you had to pick one.
I
Yeah.
have one right off the top of my head, and the only hint I will give is that he used to be a Charger, and not a lot of people might not even know the name.
Okay, interesting. After we get off here, I'm gonna be thinking today and I'm gonna text you my guesses until I figure it out. But that's a yeah.
Let's see, the only other hint I will give is I think it was late 2000s, early 2010s.
Okay. That's good. Okay. That's gonna bug me the rest of the day, but I'm gonna figure it out.
I mean, you're the history guy, I gotta leave you off with something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, that's good.
Alright,
Good thinking.
so this has been the Slap in VR. Thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.